Everyone, and today's lesson is the last part of our lesson on mediation rules. And today we will tackle the exceptions to the privilege against disclosure of communication out of the mediation and the mediator's report, and then we go to the enforcement of mediated settlement agreement. Now, as to the first exception, if the mediation communication is in an agreement evidenced by a record authenticated by all parties to the agreement, so the key word here would be agreement. Then the next would be the mediation communication is available to the public or that is made during a session of a mediation which is open or is required by law to be public or to be open to the public. So the keyword here would be public. Next would be a threat or a statement of a plan to inflict bodily injury or to commit a crime of violence. So our keyword now is injury, even the plan or even just the intention or it's a threat. Now the fourth exception would be the mediation communication is intentionally used to plan a crime, attempt to commit a crime, or commit a crime, or conceal an ongoing crime or criminal activity. So you have to take note that first it was about an injury or inflict bodily injury. And now it's already considered as a crime. Now, the next exception is the same is sought or offered to prove or disprove abuse, neglect, abandonment, or exploitation in a proceeding in which a public agency is protecting the interest of an individual protected by law. So there is a protection to an individual done by a public agency. However, if the individual involved here is a child, that is the exception to the exception. This is because children must be protected even in proceedings. That's why children on record are not identified like in court records. They're considered as AA or BB, CCC. They're not identified by their real names. Now, when the mediation communication is sought or offered to prove or disprove a claim or complaint of a professional misconduct or malpractice, first of a mediator, and next would be a misconduct or malpractice filed against a party, non-party participant, or a representative of a party. So you have to consider malpractice or misconduct of those persons listed. Now, the next exception would be it is offered to prove in a court proceeding involving a crime or felony. So there is already a pending proceeding before the court on a crime or felony. Or there is also a court proceeding and it's made available or disclosed to prove a claim or defense that under the law it is sufficient to reform or avoid a liability out of the contract, and the contract must be out of the mediation, so related to the contract arising out of the mediation. And the person wants to prove that it is enough, the mediation communication is enough to disprove or avoid a liability. Now, what about a mediator's report? General rule, the mediator may not make a report to a court or agency or other authority that make a ruling on a dispute. However, there are two exceptions. First, where the mediation occurred or has terminated or where a settlement was reached. And second, as permitted to be disclosed under the rule on mediator's disclosure and conflict of interest. So you have to refer this exception to the other provisions of the law. Now, enforcement of agreement. In case there is a mediation agreement reached by the parties, These are the guiding principles in preparation of the mediation agreement. First, it must be prepared by the parties with with the assistance of their counsel if they have, and by the mediator. And the terms and conditions must be complete and adequate to avoid conflicting interpretations, because the point of mediation is a way to end a conflict or a controversy. But if the agreement is framed in such a way to encourage multiple interpretations of the agreement, then that would defeat the purpose of mediation. And it must be signed by parties and counsels, and the mediator certifies that he or she explained the contents of the mediation agreement in a language known to the parties. So, if the parties are Cebuanos, it must be in the Cebuano language, as explained by the mediator, and the mediator sees to it that the parties understood the terms of the mediation. Now, the enforcement of agreement also can be deposited where the RTC clerk of court, where the parties reside, if the parties so desire. And if the parties want to enforce the mediation agreement, they have to be filed, or they have to file it in the same court or the RTC where the mediation agreement was deposited. And the petition to enforce proceeds summarily. So there's a summary procedure on this specifically available, and the Supreme Court has to issue the rules, or if there's a pending rule on that. So then the parties may also agree that the mediator is the sole arbitrator for the dispute, and settlement is an arbitral award. So the mediation is separate from arbitration, and we will have a lesson separate intended only for arbitration. So the parties may consider it as a mediation, or the mediation agreement is, or would be equivalent to an arbitral award. So whatever the mediator suggested and the parties agree that this would be the settlement, and the parties, or like one will have to pay someone, then that would be considered as an arbitral award, and that's part of the enforcement. And I hope in this lesson you learned something, and please, so that you will have a comprehensive understanding of mediation rules, you can check on the last or the previous 2 lessons on mediation rules. You can check it using our Facebook page, and also you can check it using our YouTube account, or our channel, and also our website. And again, I thank you for those who subscribed and liked our Facebook channel and continuously following our posts, and also our partners. I want to mention a school in Manila. So I think they have not launched it, so I will not make an announcement here, but we already have a partner, a political science society in Manila. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. And the lesson in next week would be on additional rules on statutory construction, and it was made upon a special request of my student in law school here in Cebu, and he is on his first year, first semester. So I hope you will learn something from there, and continuously share our page and channel. Thank you, and have a nice day.